It's no secret that Kia's Telluride has been an amazing success, and the success of the Telluride honestly even surprised Kia. They initially thought they were going to build maybe 40 to 50,000 of these a year. They sold almost 100,000 units of Telluride last year, and they're prepping to build 120,000 a year sometime later this year and early next year. Along with that is a honestly really surprising refresh for the Telluride. It's been selling so well, I was surprised that Kia even bothered to do a refresh. But for 2023, they've sharpened things up a bit. So we get a different looking grille here, lots more tech on the inside, but they obviously didn't want to change the formula too much. The Land Rover meets Volvo meets Kia design language that made the Telluride so popular is still here. The grille shape is actually pretty similar, so they haven't deleted the tiger nose like we have seen in some of the newer Kias out there, but they have redesigned the headlamp modules to make them look a bit more modern. We have these two very vertical DRLs in there and then a quad module setup for the headlights, all LEDs going on here, but it's lost the very distinctive oval that we had in the previous generation model. Let me know what you think about that. I actually never cared for that little orange oval. I think this design looks a lot cleaner. Down at the bottom of the bumper, we also have multi-module LED fog lights and then a different treatment to the bottom of the bumper, but still instantly recognizable as a Telluride. The Boxy profile continues around to the side, and thanks to the popularity of the Telluride, you can now get it in more trims than ever before. In addition to the base trims, the top-end SX Prestige trim and all the middle trims, we now have two more off-road oriented flavors, X-Line and X Pro. This particular model is the X Pro version. It's the more rugged, more off-road capable Telluride, although admittedly it's a minor improvement. We get a tiny bit of extra ground clearance. We get more rugged all-terrain tires. It drops down to 18-inch wheels, so you get a little bit more cushion, and then they've reprogrammed the electronic control systems in the vehicle. We also get some blacked out accents right up here in this area rather than the shinier bits that we find in other trims. But the side profile of the Telluride is basically the same as the pre-refresh model. Again, thanks to the popularity of the Telluride, they didn't want to make massive changes, so they just tweaked things around the edge to make it look more modern, keep it in style. So we have new tail lamp modules here, full LEDs of course, with a bit more texture, and they curve around right there to the tailgate. We still have twin exhaust tips, but they're located just on the one side. Towing capacity does increase if you get the X Pro model. We have a 2-inch receiver right there, and this will now tow up to 5,500 pounds. The rest of the Telluride lineup, just 5,000 pounds. We, of course, have Telluride spelled out right there, and the new Kia logo just under the wiper. Since it wasn't broken, they didn't fix it. Under here, we find the same 3.8-liter V6 that we found before and the same 8-speed automatic transmission. The all-wheel drive system is the same as before, but again, if you get the top-end X Pro model, then we get different software programming to make it work a little bit better in off-road and in snowy conditions. At the moment, Kia has not released any official fuel economy estimates for the Telluride. Don't expect it to be vastly removed from the pre-refresh model because nothing substantive under here has changed. If you want a more fuel-efficient three-row vehicle from Kia, there's the Sportage, which is available in hybrid and plug-in hybrid models, but it's not going to be as spacious on the inside. Why Kia has never adapted their hybrid or plug-in hybrid systems to the Telluride, we don't really know. I suspect it's either because this vehicle was not designed for them from the ground up, or it could be that Kia never expected to build this many of them and they're struggling to keep up with production on just this engine, so why add extra complexity to the mix? One of the reasons the Telluride has been so popular is because the interior is incredibly roomy. Thanks to the long wheelbase, decent exterior dimensions, and boxy profile, we have lots of headroom both in the front, in the middle, and in the rear, and lots of legroom as well. Over 117 inches of combined legroom. If you want more legroom than you'll find in the Telluride, you don't step over into another crossover. You'd actually have to move up to something like a minivan or a full-size SUV like a Suburban or a Tahoe. One solid reason to buy the Telluride over the competition is for the third row accommodations, especially if you routinely carry taller people. The front seat's all the way back in its track, second row seat's all the way back in its track. I still have about an inch of legroom left and plenty of headroom back here. If I sit in a natural upright position, I have about an inch of headroom left. Now, if I did want to put my head back there toward the headrest, I would have to crane my head to one side. Because of the structure of that opening right back there, the roofline does drop as it goes towards the rear hatch and the rear glass. The third row seats are a little bit closer to the ground than the second row seats, just as you'd expect, and there are 3 seat belts back here. Center seat belt does come out of the ceiling. A generously sized cargo area is another reason to get the Telluride over some of the competition. Behind the third row, we have plenty of storage space, definitely more than you'll find in a Highlander or some of the smaller 3-row crossovers out there. And there's additional storage space right here under the load floor. With over 20 cubic feet of cargo capacity, this is among the most roomy as far as 3-row crossovers go. If you need more cargo area in your 3-row, you'll have to look at full-size SUVs or, of course, minivans yet again. If you want a power third-row seat, you could look at the close cousin to this, the Hyundai Palisade, but you would be giving up some cargo area in the back, and that's the reason that Kia chose not to do it. I also think these are actually more convenient because they move an awful lot faster than power third rows. As before, the top-end trims have plenty of premium touches like the faux suede headliner this model has and the dual-pane moonroof. Pretty standard-sized moonroof right here over the driver and front passengers' heads, and then a larger pane back there for the second and third row passengers. If you don't like the suede headliner, because as you can see there are plenty of fingerprints there, then you can, of course, get it without it. We have well-integrated vents in the ceiling there for the second and third row passengers, height-adjustable shoulder belts, and height-adjustable headrests. As before, the upholstery choices include imitation leather and real leather, no fabric going on here at all. We have ventilated seats and heated seats up front and in the second row in this top-end X Pro model. This is the X Pro SX Prestige, which is quite a mouthful. The interior door panels have not changed too much. You still have the ambient lighting strip right there, but some pretty big changes happened to the dashboard, where last year we did not find a full LCD instrument cluster, which I always thought was a little bit funky in the Telluride. That has been solved with this new curved twin panel display, basically borrowed out of the EV6 in terms of styling. But they chose not to radically redesign the dashboard in here, which is an interesting twist. So rather than borrowing the climate control and infotainment controls out of the EV6 as well, like we find in the Sportage, etc., they simply adapted this dual LCD system to the interior while leaving the same steering wheel and same climate controls as we had before. That means that we have separate controls here rather than the combined controls for the climate control and infotainment system, dual zone right here. There's also a third zone in the back. Same controls, toggles here for the heated and ventilated front seats. There's a storage area right here in the middle. That's where we find the USB input for the infotainment system, along with a charge-only port. We have a pretty traditional shifter here, controls for the four-wheel drive system, auto brake hold, 360-degree camera button there, and plenty of storage under that center armrest. The steering wheel remains the more truck-like four-spoke wheel that we've found in the Telluride for a while. Sport grips up top, imitation stitching right there on the plastic airbag cover, and no paddle shifters on the back. I am surprised they didn't try and adapt those to this vehicle. We do have a manual mode, however, using the shifter in the center console. If you weren't the biggest fan of the Telluride before, the refresh is probably not going to change your mind, because this refresh was really designed for people that loved the Telluride already and wanted it to look a little bit more rugged with the new X Pro and the new X-Line trims, the better towing capacity that we find in that top-end X Pro model, and of course the more modern tweaks that we find both up front in terms of the design and especially on the inside with that new LCD twin cluster setup. Now you should know that the twin LCDs are not standard in the Telluride, but the 12.3-inch infotainment system is. If you want the LCD instrument cluster, you have to bump your way up the trim ladder from the base version. I have not been able to sample the base interior, so I don't know exactly what that one looks like just yet. But you can bet that the Telluride is still going to be a pretty darn good deal in this segment, as long as you can get one approximately at MSRP. One unfortunate thing with the Telluride because of its success is that a lot of dealers have been charging extra for it. And at that point, then the value proposition really just depends on exactly how much you're paying extra. If you're paying $1,000 or $2,000 over MSRP, the Telluride is still going to be a good deal. Especially if you're looking for a three-row crossover that's almost as roomy as the average minivan on the inside. You don't have too many options. It's basically this and the sister ship from Hyundai, which has also received a bit of a refresh this year. But I have always preferred the look of the Telluride, especially the front-end design of the Telluride, to what we see in the Palisade. Let me know what you think about that too down there in the comment section. One of my complaints about the Telluride in the past versus the Palisade is that the interior did not feel quite as premium as some of the sections inside the Palisade, but they've really changed that for the 2023 model year vehicle with the availability of that twin LCD cluster. As we all wait for pricing information, be sure and hit that subscribe button down there at the bottom of your screen, because I will be able to drive this sometime later this year. And if you want to get your hands on the new 2023 Telluride, you should probably reach out to your local Kia dealer now, because they might even already have a wait list going on for Tellurides. This has been such a popular model, you can expect it to remain popular for 2023. Hit that subscribe button again if you haven't already done so. Find me on all the social media channels, and I'll see everybody later.